To protect her family, a young woman disguises herself as a man and joins the army. Her courage reshapes the meaning of honor and loyalty. In the sweeping landscapes of ancient China, under the stoic gaze of the Northern Wei dynasty, a legend was forged not in the crucible of a battlefield, but in the quiet heart of a devoted daughter. This is the story of Hua Mulan, a name whispered through centuries, a symbol of filial piety and unyielding bravery. Her tale begins not with the clash of swords, but with the gentle hum of a loom, a sound that defined the world of women in her time. Mulan, like countless others, was expected to follow a path meticulously laid out for her, one of marriage, domesticity, and quiet deference. Her duty was to her family, a duty fulfilled by bringing honor through a suitable match, a role she struggled to embrace. Her spirit, vibrant and untamed, yearned for something more, though she could not yet name it. She saw the worry etched on her aging father's face, a decorated veteran whose body bore the silent testimony of past wars. The looming threat from the Ruren hordes cast a long, dark shadow over the empire, a shadow that would soon fall directly upon her own household. The emperor's decree arrived like a death knell, a stark proclamation delivered by imperial officials to every corner of the land. One man from every family was to be conscripted into the imperial army to defend the northern frontier. For the Hua family, this decree was a sentence of certain doom. Mulan's father, frail and weakened by old wounds, was the only man in their household. To see him don his armor once more was to send him to his grave. The weight of this impossible choice pressed down on the family, a silent, shared agony. Mulan watched her father, his hands trembling as he accepted the conscription scroll, his face a mask of grim acceptance. In that moment, a profound and terrifying resolve took root in her heart. She could not stand by and watch her beloved father sacrifice himself. The honor of her family, she realized, could not be preserved through his death. It had to be protected through her life, through an act of unprecedented courage and deception. That night, under the cloak of darkness, a decision was made. The ancestral sword was unsheathed. A lock of long, dark hair fell to the floor, and the reflection of a young woman was replaced by that of a determined young soldier. Stealing her father's armor and conscription notice, Mulan rode away from her sleeping home, trading the familiar world of silken tea for the harsh, unforgiving reality of a military encampment. Renaming herself Hua Jun, she plunged into a world defined by brute strength, rigid discipline, and a brand of masculinity she had only ever observed from a distance. The training grounds became her new crucible. Every day was a grueling test of endurance and a precarious balancing act of maintaining her disguise. She learned to walk, talk, and fight like the men around her, burying her true self beneath layers of dirt, sweat, and feigned bravado. Her comrades, a boisterous and unrefined band of recruits, including the comically clumsy Yao, the gentle giant Chenpo, and the hot-tempered Ling, initially saw her as a weak link. Her smaller frame and lack of experience made her a target for ridicule and doubt. The initial days were a cascade of failures. She struggled with archery, stumbled in combat drills, and fought to keep pace on long marches, all while living in constant fear of discovery. The turning point came during a seemingly impossible training exercise set by their commanding officer, the capable and disciplined Captain Li Sheng. The recruits were tasked with retrieving an arrow from the top of a towering wooden pole, a challenge meant to test their strength, ingenuity, and determination. One by one, the soldiers tried and failed, their brute force proving insufficient. When it was Mulan's turn, she faced not only the pole, but the derisive laughter of her peers. Yet, where they saw an obstacle, she saw a puzzle. Drawing on a resilience forged in secret, she used the sash weights from her training gear, transforming them into makeshift climbing aids. With a combination of cleverness and sheer willpower, she ascended the pole, inch by painstaking inch. Her small victory a silent roar of defiance against everyone who had underestimated her. Reaching the summit, she stood silhouetted against the dawn, the arrow held aloft, not just as a symbol of her success, but as a testament to a different kind of strength one born of intellect and perseverance, not just muscle. This singular act of grit earned her the respect of her fellow soldiers and, crucially, of Captain Shang. She was no longer just Hua Jun, the scrawny recruit. She was a soldier who had proven her worth. Her newfound acceptance was soon put to the ultimate test as the army marched towards the treacherous Tong Shao Pass. The idyllic landscapes gave way to charred villages, and the grim evidence of the enemy's destructive path. The mood in the ranks grew somber, the boyish camaraderie replaced by the tense anticipation of battle. It was here, in the desolate, snow-covered mountains, that Shang's army was ambushed by the full might of the Han forces, led by the ruthless and imposing Shan Yu. The imperial soldiers were vastly outnumbered, a small band of green recruits facing a seemingly unstoppable avalanche of warriors. A sense of hopelessness descended upon them as the Huns charged, a terrifying wave of destruction poised to wipe them out. Chaos erupted, and in the heart of the frantic battle, Mulan's strategic mind, honed by years of quiet observation and quick thinking, saw an opportunity others missed. Armed with only one final cannon, she made a daring choice. Instead of aiming for the charging horde, she fired the cannon at the mountain peak looming above them. The resulting explosion triggered a massive avalanche, a roaring tsunami of snow and ice that thundered down the mountainside, completely engulfing the Han army. It was a brilliant, desperate gambit that single-handedly turned the tide of the war, saving her comrades from certain annihilation. Yet, her heroism came at a great personal cost. In the chaos of the avalanche, Mulan sustained a severe injury while saving Captain Shang from being swept away. When the army's medics treated her wound, her identity as a woman was discovered. The law was absolute. Deceiving a commanding officer was an act of treason, punishable by death. Shang, bound by the law, but indebted to her for his life and the lives of his men, was torn. He spared her life, but in accordance with the rigid code of honor he lived by, he expelled her from the army, abandoning her in the frozen wilderness as the remaining soldiers marched victoriously towards the imperial city. Left alone, disgraced and stripped of her armor, Mulan was crushed by the weight of a failure. She had saved them all, yet her true honor, the honor she had fought so hard to redefine, was rejected. As she sat in the snow with her companions, the cynical dragon Mushu and the lucky cricket Creaky, despair threatened to consume her. But her vigil was cut short by a horrifying discovery. From snow-covered wreckage of the avalanche, Shan Yu and a small band of his most elite warriors emerged, alive and burning with vengeance. They were heading for the imperial city, their target now the emperor himself. Mulan knew she had to act. Her duty was not over. Her honor was not defined by a military code, but by her commitment to protecting her people. Racing on her horse, she arrived at the capital during the height of a grand celebration, a city blissfully unaware of the danger lurking within its own walls. She tried to warn Captain Shang and the others, but her words were dismissed. She was a disgraced woman, her warnings falling on deaf ears. Taking matters into her own hands, Mulan enlisted the help of her only remaining allies, Yao, Ling, and Chenpo. Appealing to their friendship, she convinced them to trust her one last time. In a brilliant reversal of her own disguise, she had them dress as concubines, using the enemy's underestimation of women to their advantage. They infiltrated the palace, scaled its walls, and created a diversion that allowed Mulan to confront Shan Yu directly. The final battle was a desperate struggle on the palace rooftop, a one-on-one duel between the hulking warlord and the resourceful young woman. Using her fan not as an accessory but as a weapon, and her wits as her greatest shield, she disarmed Shan Yuan with the help of Mush, engineered a spectacular and fiery defeat. She had saved the emperor and all of China, not as Hua Zheng the soldier, but as Hua Mulan the woman. In the aftermath, Mulan stood before the emperor, expecting punishment for her deception. But the emperor, a man of great wisdom, saw beyond the broken law. He bowed to her, a gesture of profound respect that sent shockwaves through the assembled crowd. He recognized that her actions, while unorthodox, were born from a deeper, more meaningful sense of honor, one rooted in love, loyalty, and self-sacrifice. He offered her a position on his council, the highest honor in the land. Yet Mulan humbly declined. The honor she sought was not a title or a position of power, but the simple, profound honor of returning to her family. She journeyed home, not as a disgraced outcast, but as a celebrated hero. Her reunion with her father was not one of shame, but of mutual love and understanding. He embraced her, casting aside the sword and helmet she presented him, declaring that the greatest gift in honor was having her back, safe and sound. The courage of one young woman had not only saved a nation but had challenged the very foundations of tradition. Her courage reshapes the meaning of honor and loyalty.